The first call I want to get to, we are talking to Barrie, calling in from New Zealand. Barrie, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Yeah, hi guys. It looks like I've picked the right day for this one because I want to talk about conspiracy theories.
All right, let's get to it. What's up, Barrie?
Yeah, sure. I think with these things, it always helps to personalize it because it's a big subject, you know. In my case, for better or worse, I have a sister who believes in conspiracy theories big time, you know. She's is trying to understand how you get to that because how can I put it? Like cognitively, she's wickedly smart. She's done lots of jobs in her life, and every single time she'll go in at entry level, and within about 6 months, they handpick her to be a manager, and she kind of turns it down. You know, she can't be bothered with it, but she's that smart. You know, She went to university, and second year undergrad, they're saying to her, "You should do a PhD." You know, she's just. I always think of her as like Good Will Hunting. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, Robin Williams and little Leonardo. Was it Leonardo DiCaprio? Yeah.
Was it Leo or Matt Damon?
Matt Damon. It's Matt Damon. I'm dumb. Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't old enough yet. Okay. Anyway.
You know, like he's wickedly smart but lazy at the same time. Kind of like they keep offering her these management positions, she turns it down. So okay, that's my sister, right? But at exactly the same time, in the same head, is a person who already at the age of 16 was dabbling with Ouija boards and crystals and this kind of stuff, right? But it all seemed kind of harmless at the time. I didn't pay much attention. And then I'd say probably starting maybe 5 years ago, she started, you know, going on the internet like we all do, but she started taking an interest in conspiracy stuff more and more and more. And it got to the point where virtually it was an echo chamber. It's the only stuff she ever listens to, like 24/7, day in and day out. And even then, although it's not me, I thought, it's fairly harmless. But now she seems to be, there's a politics to it. And that's something I've noticed with these conspiracy theories. They all have they all coalesce, even if it's not explicit, they all coalesce around a very right-wing politics, you know?
Yes. Yes, they do.
You know, that starts to grate with me because I was like, whoa. And the other aspect to this is that I have a nephew who lives with her. He's autistic, and he's grown up in that household, and he doesn't know what's true or not, you know. And my sister has gone so far down the rabbit hole now, I can't find a conspiracy that she doesn't believe in. I mean, and some of them, it's absurd, like QAnon in New Zealand. What does that mean? You know, what Donald Trump is doing and all this other stuff. I mean, everything from A to Z. You name a conspiracy, she believes it, all of it. The lizards, the Pizzagate, the flat earth, the chemtrails, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And I think, and the mistake I used to make, and I don't know what you guys think about this, is I used to make great effort to try and debunk each conspiracy in detail. You know, okay, we didn't land on the moon, the world's flat, okay. And I do my homework, you know, do your research, as they love to say. But it would have absolutely no effect on her whatsoever. It wouldn't, you know, her ideas are unfalsifiable. That's what they want you to think, or, you know, and even when you would show her own sources don't stack up, it leads to no change at all in her thinking, you know?
Yeah.
So my way of approaching it now is more on a meta level. It's kind of like, okay, what is the underlying psychology behind instead of looking at all the individual conspiracies as individual things, like, because it's all in the one person, right? How do you get into that headspace to begin with, you know? And in her case, I've come up with the idea that it's a status anxiety thing where she feels, well, I'm revealing a bit here, but she's been through a number of abusive relationships and things, and she's got a bit of an alcohol problem and stuff. And I think it's a quick way to suddenly feel empowered again. Like everyone else is a sheeple who's a sucker, but I've got the inside track on how the world really works. And suddenly you go from being a nobody to a somebody, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But, oh my goodness. Barry, I have so many thoughts about this.
Yeah, same here.
What are you asking, Barry? What do you want to say?
No, I'll let you go for it, guys. Just what do you think? Yeah.
Okay, so here, man, so many things going on here. Okay, so I want to go backwards in time a little bit and try chronologically in some of the things you said. So there is a tendency for conspiracy theories to coalesce into a right-wing, sort of center of ideas. I think that this is something that people who unfortunately want this voter base to be a thing has created and is intentionally done on purpose. This is not a result of accident. You see in the United States, like American politicians with Q pins or making like very covert references to the Q movement on Twitter and stuff. Like that's them like stoking a base and purposely influencing that. So that's really bad. But like that's where that happens, and there's a reason why it is, and these people are doing this. The interesting thing is, we were also talking about this before the show. There is also like a weird sort of lefty movement of conspiracy theories too, but it's more like the I don't know how you'd call it. It's like the granola types of people, naturopath kind of people. The witch types, I don't know what you call it, the Instagram influencer types, who are also kind of falling down the Q rabbit hole, who don't often even make the explicit connection to Donald Trump, but like we'll just talk about a great awakening and stuff like that. That's kind of the movement that's going on there. I do think, without armchair psychologizing anybody or anybody I know, but just as a generalization, I do think that conspiracy theories have a sort of self-important narrative that allows people to navigate themselves in the world. And I relate this to when I was a Christian. When I was a Christian, I thought that I had a purpose, and it was to do the will of God, and that gave me a sense of self-importance. I mean, that seriously was integral to my psychological well-being, which is why it was so hard for me to deconstruct that these ideas weren't true, because it also meant that it was going to affect me emotionally. And that is the reality of a lot of people's beliefs, is that you're always going to have that human psychological barrier to getting stuff out of the way. And that's why, like, I don't often suggest just like doing debunk work when you're talking to people like that, because that debunk work just doesn't have to work. And there's studies that demonstrate that too. The backfire effect seems to be a real phenomenon that's from instantly changing their mind. So the better thing I always suggest is the street epistemology method, and that is analyzing somebody's view epistemically, really asking them why they personally believe in the things that they do is going to be better, because their reasoning to get to their beliefs not the same as yours. They may not be using the scientific method. They may not be using the same kinds of logical reasoning that you and I do. They may have a different tract, and you have to figure out what that tract is. So you can throw studies out there all day. You can throw news articles out there all day, but that's not going to work. You have to figure out, where is this coming from, and how are they determining true beliefs from false beliefs? Because every thinking person at least has a system. It might be a flawed system, and you can point out the flaws in that system, but there is a system of thinking there. If she thinks that some things aren't true, she must have a reason why, right? At least I would hope she'd have a reason why. But that's the best advice I could give to that, because if it's a tough situation all around, but like intelligent people definitely believe in some of this stuff, and it's hard to see. It really is.
Yeah, I think, Dan, I mean, you just touched on a lot of what I was going to say. And also, to you, Barry, you're right that telling people, any sort of facts that would refute whatever it is that they believe is not going to do anything for them. And so you're right that you would totally be wasting your time to go through and debunk conspiracy by conspiracy by conspiracy. And, just like Dan, I am not a psychologist, and so I'm going to shy away from doing any sort of like armchair psychology. But I've at least noticed in my own life, having family members, similar to your sister, who are smart. Maybe they're nurses, and they believe all of these outlandish things, especially when it comes to, most recently, with the pandemic. I think that a lot of it comes down to the fact that they can't really exist without, a boatload of anxiety if they believe that there is indeed no rhyme or reason to a lot of what happens. Like, they have to believe that COVID isn't real. It's actually like all of these people who are in control, and it's this hoax, and there's so much that sort of goes into what essentially it becomes it's a comfort zone. They're comforted to know that even if they're evil, there's somebody who's in control, and they are more smart, they're more brilliant than anybody else because they're in the know, and they haven't fallen for the propaganda that is the mainstream, what have you. I think it's important to, just like Dan said, approach this the same way that you would a street epistemologist would. Don't ask about any of the beliefs. Like, whatever she believes is not important. What really is important is understanding, how does she know that what she believes is true? And it could be about the flat earth, it could be about vaccines, it could be about 5G or lizard people, or anything. As long as you can just get her to wonder, how do I know that this is true, and what would convince me that I might be mistaken? I think that's probably your best bet for getting through to her. But I can sympathize with where she's coming from, especially if she's had this troubled background with abuse and all of these things. It is important to feel empowered, and I'm hoping, for your sake and for your nephew's sake and for her sake, that you can help her come back and join us in reality, because it's not that scary.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That's you give me some real insights there. I think this is the right approach. It's not so much the specifics of any of it. It's more about, how did you get to where you are? And one approach I took for a while was trying to find one of these things that she actually didn't believe in. And for a little while there, it was Holocaust denial. And oh no, of course the Holocaust happened. It's like, great. And then I tried to sort of, through questioning, sort of say, well, if the methodology and the physical evidence that exists for the Holocaust is actually the same as what exists for all these things that you don't believe happened. So how do you explain the difference there, And every now and then, I almost think there's little breakthroughs that come through. But I think it is because it's a personal thing. I want to be able to keep some line of communication going, because I haven't spoken to her for months because it's a waste of time. I felt that, it gets frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Because it's her whole world that she lives in, this other world, and I got nothing to say because I don't believe any of that. But yeah, I think she's got no social life, and to me, I think people who are well adjusted socially don't have time. They're too busy going out having a good time. They don't have time to believe all this really dark, heavy stuff. And I do see your point, Genevieve, about how there's this incredibly chaotic, scary, dangerous world out there, and at least what a conspiracy mindset does is it provides some answer to why it is the way things are. It's like an easy sort of, that's why. Oh, okay. And it may be scary, but at least now I understand it,
Yeah.
So maybe it's just a question of trying to replace that negative answer, inverted commas, with a positive answer that would also explain the complex world we live in and deal with it,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's something that we're definitely going to continue to study as the world moves on, because it's weird. You'd think with the continuing of the internet and just like globalization happening, you know, like with the world just developing as it is, that these kinds of thoughts would go away. But they're actually on the rise. Like every study out there is showing that, yeah, they're on the rise and it's going to keep happening. And like, it's probably because of some socialization issues. I mean, the internet has kind of ruined us as like a people. I think that that's pretty true. So like Twitter, hell is real. And it's called twitter.com. Okay. Like it's something that we have yet to fully grasp the effects on us all. And I imagine that like support groups are going to be more of a thing in the future for people who have family members who believe in conspiracy theories. I mean, they already are, but it's definitely going to be more mainstream. Like it's pretty wild. But we have to like arm ourselves with the tools and work with it the best that we can in helping people out, in my opinion. I do think that you have a business in knowing other people's beliefs if it's going to cause them psychological harm. These beliefs aren't healthy for people to have. They just really aren't. And you know, the effects of that are pretty demonstrable, I think. You know, maybe the January 6th riots would be one example, but you know, there's obviously all kinds of stuff we could look at there. It's really heartbreaking. So sorry that you're having to deal with that, Barry, but I hope our advice or perspective can give you some comfort.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I think just for me, having someone like you guys to talk to and bounce the ideas off and get me thinking, because I've been trying for a long time my own approaches, and some of it works and some of it doesn't, you know. And like you guys, I'm not a professional psychologist, right? I'm just trying stuff and trying to understand someone I care about who's just so different to where I'm at, you know?
Yeah. It's really sad. I mean, like this show, I remember one of the things that inspired me to do this show in particular was the Q movement. Because at the time, I mean, to really, I mean, not like right at the beginning, but at its infancy was at the time when this show was at its infancy. And I remember wanting to talk about it more because I was afraid it was going to be a big thing. And like, we are living in that reality now. And it doesn't matter that Trump isn't president anymore. It doesn't matter. It's going to keep going. And it's weirdly enough affecting people around the world. Still not entirely sure why people in New Zealand give a crap about Q, but I guess that's a thing. And in Europe as well, there's all kinds of reports about that. So it represents something else. It's more than just the beliefs itself. It's a movement that it's definitely empowering people in a way that they haven't felt before for one reason or another. So maybe the solution to that is to help people's material needs more, or to give them the psychological care they need, which we don't have readily available to people in this country. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. But
yeah.
Anyway, Barry, thanks so much for giving us a call. Appreciate you dropping by. Hope to hear from you again some other time. So fun stuff. What'd you think of that, Genevieve?
Gosh, you know, I wish that this were news to me.
Yeah.
I wish that I didn't relate to Barry so much, but I have been back and forth with family like that, and it is exhausting, and you do almost want to pull your hair out. But you know, while street epistemology is an invaluable tool to sort of help pull people out of that, you know, it's also important to take time for yourself. And and you know, it's not upon you to save everybody. You just got to do your best.
That's a good point of clarification, because I did make a call to action earlier and said, I think we should all be doing this. And while I still hold to that, it's obviously takes a toll on people. Like, it takes up your time, and it's also not something that everybody feels comfortable doing. And I wouldn't want to put that burden on other people, but I don't know. I personally feel like I have to. I don't know. It's like, it's one of those things. Maybe that's the latent Christianity in me of spreading the message, right? I don't know.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad that it's manifesting in this way, and you're no longer just spreading the good word. You know, it's because it's a good tool. We should try to reach out to people and share our perspectives and, you know, build bridges. But
that's a side note too. You know, like I get very you know, I don't like psychologizing people too much on this show, only because how much has the atheist community been psychologized for one reason or another about why we are the way that we are, right? Like, what people say, oh, we have poor relationships with our community or with our families, or we got into drugs or something, you know.
You will never know joy until you know Christ.
Right. Yeah. So it's you got to be careful, because you don't want to be that person that just blames everything on psychology or or what have you.